So why was the SISE-net cross-sector TTX even created? Well, first off, hurricanes cut across multiple states. They don't always align with state boundaries or federal regional boundaries or even sector boundaries. They typically will cut across 10, 15 states, but many times involve 25 and 30 states involved in the response effort, depending on what sectors are engaged. Secondly, hurricanes escalate dramatically the need for information sharing across sectors, state to state, sector to sector, sectors to states, federal agencies, across federal agencies. It really becomes very complicated very quickly. And if you're not planning and exercising year-round and understand each other's processes, if industry doesn't understand a state's processes for how they're going to evacuate, how they're going to put a curfew in place, how they're going to do this and that, it really impacts their ability to have effective security plans, response plans, contingency plans. So understanding these things don't happen the day of the storm. They have to go on all the time. And that gave birth to an environment for this, hey, why don't we do something on a planning exercise basis year-round? The next reason was this whole discussion around cross-sector forum. There wasn't really a forum for multiple sectors, multiple states and regions to get together year-round to discuss these issues and formulate solutions based on the problems they were facing. The other thing people observed was prior to the landfall of a hurricane, everybody was chasing after the states for the same information. Where are the declarations? Where are the waivers? Where are the sit reps? What's going on? We have to pre-position our people. We need to know what roads might be closed or what shelters might be opened. Everybody was chasing the same information from the states, and meanwhile, the states are trying to respond to the hurricane. Well, this increased email traffic dramatically. Many times, people would get 4, 5, 6, 8 emails on the same thing. Or they'd get a declaration from the state of Florida, and everybody'd send it out to everybody, their friends, and pretty soon you got 25 emails on the same thing. It just wasted a lot of emails, but more importantly, you never quite knew which was the most recent one, who had it. Well, you know what happens when you get 25 emails on something, they're all date stamped differently, you don't know which one you can rely on. So trying to synchronize that was a problem. And on the flip side, after landfall, the government, state government particularly, was looking for what's broken, what are the disruptions, where are they occurring, what's the facility status of key locations, refrigerated warehouses or infrastructure or what have you. What are the RFIs, right, requests for information? What does industry need to know from states in order to expedite their response? All this was done via email amongst small groups that all kind of know each other, text and so forth, but it was chaotic. It always has been, and there's really no solution to it. And this was an attempt. Couldn't we do something to try to fix this? And the exercise was really designed, can we find a better process for this? The other thing we learned is understanding people and the processes involved avoids response delays. If you know where to go get the information, you won't waste 48 hours trying to find it. More importantly, it won't be outdated when you get it. So we've learned understanding the people involved at the state or sector level and what their processes are really important. For example, if you know it's going to take a utility 24 hours to even know what's broken, don't be asking them for information on restorations when they haven't even done a damage assessment yet. We saw that early on many years ago. That's kind of been resolved now. Another example is if you're a company and you're trying to get back into open your businesses in a state that's been impacted by a hurricane and they're in life safety mode, search and rescue, you're not getting in. Don't bother them, don't ask them. So these are those things that understanding those processes really can make a big difference in avoiding these response delays. The other thing was the need for a safe operational environment to do this planning. We cannot have these kinds of plans done out in the open because it involves sensitive information. We do not want media and outside non-operational influence involved in those discussions. And there was not a forum really to do that. And the states wanted it even more than industry. The other thing was the private sector needed to operate this so it could move fast, it could be efficient, and it wouldn't be tied down with a lot of the unnecessary processes and things that government has to abide by just because it's the nature of government. It's a little bit slower. The states wanted the private sector to own and operate it, but state and local government can be advising and participating and be a pivotal part of the process because when it hits the fan, everything is local. So it's in this environment that the cross-sector virtual tabletop exercise was started in 2021. That gave birth to some requirements. They narrowed down the 6 areas of information they want to get focused on and streamline. That was the declarations, waivers, and guidance that industry needed from states. And it was the facility status, RFIs, and infrastructure disruptions that states needed from industry. And they built the exercise around that, playbook all the products. In 2022, they refined some of those products they developed and processes. And now in 2023, they're going to reintroduce this again to new people. Some of the older folks that have been with us are refining, going to see some new tools and new technology. But the idea was the exercise was born out of this real world, decades old problem. Is how do we coordinate across sectors and across state boundaries together year round and then bring it together in an exercise to test the plans and the processes that have been developed by the group.